80 years ago today, the day the federal government took all our gold. It changed the precious metal as we know it. So let's start with a little history lesson. April 5th, 1933, FDR confiscated every gold coin, bullion, and certificate.
Gold was confiscated in 1933, and what we did is we really put together what Roosevelt did in that point in time and how Congress, the Supreme Court, and everybody else reacted.
The story about your grandfather and gold confiscation back in the 30s.
Well, Dr. Paul, let's focus on this threat of potential gold confiscation.
What happened back in the days of confiscation? Some people are aware that that happened. Some that are just now becoming aware, but that's been a big one.
Where does it go from here, Ray?
Well, first, I want to convey the mechanics of that. When there's more, you run a larger deficit, and there's printing and buying of financial assets. It drives down real yields, and as a result of this, it drives money into alternative assets. There's a supply-demand problem for bonds, but when the central banks at the end of the day print, in much the same as Roosevelt did in March of 1933, that causes financial asset prices to rise and supports the economy, but diminishes the value of debt, the real value of debt.
The government has confiscated gold once before. Can they do it again, and would they? I want to talk about Ray Dalio's recent LinkedIn posts about possible gold confiscation. I'm just going to read his quote here. He came out with a scathing review and critique of America's current tax environment. He said policymakers who are short of money will raise taxes and won't like these capital movements out of debt assets and into other storehold of wealth assets and other tax domains, so they could very well impose prohibitions against capital movements to other assets, example gold, Bitcoin, etc. Is confiscation the right term to use? They didn't really confiscate it per se, right? They just exchanged it with money. They gave them dollars.
Okay,
for it.
so that's right. So everyone gets this idea that people are going to raid your house and look for your gold. It's not necessary. All you have to do is limit the ability to transact gold in the legal market. And then you assess an excise tax. So I'm just going to give you a hypothetical. So gold takes off and it goes much higher than it is today. And everyone's panicking because there's Fed coin and all your transactions are taxed and there's no way to move money. And you have a social credit score. And if your social credit score is too low, then your Fed coin wallet won't work at the amusement park because you've been a bad boy and you've been saying things against the government. So now your credit score is down and you can't spend. I want you to picture this world. Okay, so
yeah, it's already happening in China, by the way. That's exactly what's
already happening. It's not sci-fi. This is already happening. Facebook, all these things are all tracked all the time, and your phone knows where you are all the time. It's listening to you. So if you think this is crazy, then you're crazy. Okay, so I want you to picture this, and then you have this ounce of gold, which has been declared an asset for only subversives, and it's something that you absolutely cannot have. And then you try to sell it. Well, how do you sell it? Because you can't sell it anymore because there's an excise tax. So they say, go ahead and sell it, and it's a 90% tax. Okay, well, I'll sell it on the black market. Well, that becomes very dangerous. Because remember, they don't need to come and kick in your door. You just limit someone's ability to sell it. I mean, think about if you had $100,000 in cash. You essentially, it's very difficult to get rid of that, to spend it, because everywhere if you go into a department store and try to buy $1,000 worth of expensive clothing, they have to call over a manager and ask you where you got the cash and fill out one of those FinCEN reports to report suspicious activity. You get where I'm saying. I mean, so when you think about confiscation, stop thinking about a Jason Bourne movie or something. I mean, it's just limiting the ability to transact. And so then you have to say to yourself, am I buying the gold to transact? So your wealth is not about trading. Your wealth is it's a physical representation of your hard effort and your thinking and your abilities and all the things that you've worked for. It's the war against your wealth and how to win it. That's where people's heads need to be oriented right now.
Well, Dr. Paul, let's focus on this threat of potential gold confiscation or one form or other of government intervention, because that concern is rising. We have investment greats like Ray Dalio, Michael Burry saying that safe haven assets are not necessarily going to be so safe from government intervention. They're saying expect possible tax changes or regulation that will prevent a flight of capital to these assets that could be viewed as an alternative to the dollar, like gold, like Bitcoin. Could they be at risk of a government crackdown?
Oh, absolutely, and that's what's not believable. You know, when countries go through, these periods of euphoria where bubbles are blown up, a lot of times people will be taken in, and but eventually everybody becomes gullible and they have to try to protect themselves. So these types of euphorias usually end. But that's the reason why, yes, some are going to make it, some will have their private airplanes, some will get out of here, and some will survive. At the minute, right now, they're benefiting from the bailouts. Nobody, the wealthy didn't get poorer in this last bailout. So it's always a threat. But the government is the threat, because they will crack down, because they have the ability to do it, and that's why I'm so positive that we need more people saying, yes, what is this free society you talk about? Well, we had a taste of it. Our Constitution, if you don't know where to start or understand it, just start with the Constitution. You know, that might give you an idea of what a free society is all about. You know, say, most people want to say that's old-fashioned. That we can't do. Nobody cares about that.
So, but Dr. Paul, what form of a crackdown do you think that this could take when we talk about assets like gold and even Bitcoin potentially being at risk of government intervention, at higher taxes, at regulation? What do you think could happen to those assets?
I think all of that can happen. The tax system will be used, but just printing money as a tax, I say all you have to do is spend money and run up the debt. That is a tax, because if people won't loan you the money, which they won't, then they have to print the money, and the devaluation of the currency becomes a tax. So the tax is going up, but they will do it for public relations reason. They will have to show that they're putting a heavy tax on the very wealthy because of the civil strife that's going on. So that will happen. But it's something that should be preventable. It's really hard to take care of once it breaks out, and that's why people are really so scared. But I think there are two parts of it. One is we have the financial bankruptcy. Most people understand it. Too much debt, printing money, borrowing, this sort of thing. But the other is the moral bankruptcy. If you look at it and what's going on in this country with this attack on freedom of speech, an attack on the values of our Western civilization, boy, that is a big deal, and that represents a bankruptcy, a moral bankruptcy, and that is what probably will become more important than just dealing with the financial bankruptcy. But I think they're both, and we have a financial bankruptcy and a moral bankruptcy, and we've never had to go through this quite like this before.
I've had people asking me about gold confiscation acts back in the 30s, which obviously is not my expertise. If people are asking me about this, is this something they're asking you? Are they asking about this?
This is, for the first time in a long time, we've had more questions about this than ever before. And the funny thing is, so many people never even heard about this through school or anything like that. Unless you really took an economics course, you don't learn about the Confiscation Act of 1933. But it really, in essence, what it was is it was a time frame where we were in the Great Depression. I mean, the Great Crash happened in 29. It wasn't until 33 that we confiscated gold from the public. And all the rules and regulations that came upon this and the way that it changed our entire economic system, this is where that change happened. And so we're now talking about this for the first time in a long time, and it's really interesting the way people are getting interested.
Why was it passed? What was the reasoning behind it?
Think of it kind of like a quantitative easing 1.0, if you would. We were stuck to a gold standard that limited us from the way that we could print money and create money. So what we did is we confiscated gold only to revalue it and basically raise the money supply, or give us taking away the restrictions from us being able to actually print money the way we wanted to.
Create that fiat currency.
Well, it wasn't fiat yet, but it was what led to us basically abandoning the gold standard in '71.
Okay, so why is this relevant now? Is there a real concern that it's going to happen again? Is that what people were talking about that time?
I don't think that there's a real concern of it happening anytime soon, but because of the rules and regulations and the way that bullion was confiscated, I mean, I think it was Mark Twain that said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. There's a lot of things that when you read about what happened in this time frame, rhymes a lot with what's going on right now. So definitely something that'll be interesting to anyone that's wants to look into it.